Welcome back to another episode of the Other Epic Story Reading. Today we're doing the second part of Chapter 4. If you found that you've jumped ahead, I have a link to the previous chapters right there in the card. Please go back before continuing. If you're in the right place, we'll get started right away. I'm the Sheriff of the North. He began with a lie, and then followed by some truth and a little bit more lies. I seek my pistol, as well as the man who offered me this bed. I am very grateful. That is my bed, said Blaire. I wish to have it back. I am very thankful for your offer, said Delaine. You are welcome to have it back. So, where is my pistol? Blaire turned to his siblings and exchanged a look of uncertainty. We believe my father has it for safekeeping, said Chloe. A weapon like that should not be left alone in a house full of children. That is perhaps a wise choice, said Delaine, massaging his head. What have you done with my clothing? My hope is that you have it clean for me. We trashed them, said Chloe. It was not worth keeping, even before my mother poured cheese onto it. She reached for a stack of clothing upon a dresser drawer. My family offers you these as a compensation for ruining your clothes. Delaine stepped forward and received the new garment. He gently caressed them. Times like this, I'm glad I'm not a sentimental man. Thank you for discarding them. I have collected grime and muck upon my journey. Despite how I look, I feel rejuvenated. Your family has been too kind to me, he said with a smile. You have given me a great debt to pay. Where is your father? I would like to thank him in person. He is out currently, said Blaire. Tending to the fields. There is a lot to get done. The last moon of autumn is approaching. Yes, said Delaine. Of course. Winter. I appear to have arrived at the perfect time to offer my assistance. I was a laborer before I became a sheriff. What is your name, stranger? Demanded Blaire. Before we discuss any further, where are you from? We don't have no sheriff in Gin since, well, as long as I've known. Delaine stepped closer to exhibit his full height to the Barnwell children. My name is Aaron Delaine, he said. I am from the north in a town called Bourbon. It was a long journey to Gin. I'd imagined my road ending before I reached here, but now that I'm here, I understand my quest has only begun. Quest? Inquired Chloe. What brings you to Gin? Perhaps it is best I speak to your parents, he said. So I would not have to reiterate myself later on. Would you kindly fetch them for me? Like we said, Blaire replied. They are much too busy dealing with the approaching winter to be bothered. Tell us, and we shall relay the information to them. Delaine scratched the back of his neck, feeling the uncertainty of this situation, but mostly the tension in his back and the yearning for his gun. Say, he said, why don't you walk me out there to them, and I'll explain everything. Sorry, Mr. Delaine. Sorry, Sheriff Delaine, said Chloe. But we don't distract our parents when they are working. Their chores are much too important to us all. You shall speak to them when they return for dinner. Until then, we can speak for them. Very well, said the humbled guest. But please, must we do it in this cramped room? May we not sit outside comfortably to listen to my adventures? It's a long tale, and I assure you that you would not wish to be standing the whole time. If you insist, said Blaire, as he gave his sister an agreeable nod. Come with us. The Barnwell children settled down in the kitchen table and offered him a glass of water. Now, said Blaire, applying some force behind his words, explain to us why our mother had to strike you down on our property, Sheriff. Were you planning to make an arrest? Delaine downed the water greedily and exhaled a long sigh. All the while, he quickly refreshed himself with the story he created. Arrests? He began. Yes, that had been my ultimate goal, but I was not here to arrest any of you. I was simply approaching your door for directions. That was, of course, before I was unconscious. I am actually not familiar with anything that happened after I blacked out. Can you please tell me what happened upon my arrival? My memories have been rattled. Our mother was churning rock cheese, said Blaire, before you crept up behind her and startled her enough that she struck you with her bucket in self-defense. It was an accident, an unfortunate one to say the least. I see, said Delaine, massaging his jaw. That explains the pain here. I'm sure your mother feels guilty. What is the law in Jin for assault? We hold no courts here in Jin. We deal with justice communally, and it serves the purpose. Mr. Sheriff, you said that you were after a felon. That is true, said Delaine. Your mother should not worry about me, for it is not her punishment I wish to seek. All the moons are now a blur, but if I must guess, I would say that I have been away from home for a year now. He allowed a second for the children to soak it in. Yes, it has been a while. Even regular human dialogue seems strange and new. But, as I was saying, I have traveled far and wide in search of North Bourbon's most vile criminal. I searched for a man named Henry Gonright. He was the man that murdered my wife and fled. He was the man that took my life away from me. So that is why I chase him now. That is why I search for him. And one day, I'll find him, and I'll capture him, and I'll show him the justice of my gun. Daring story, Mr. Sheriff, said Chloe. Call me Aaron, said Delaine, brushing the hair from his eyes. I only hope he is still alive and not rotting in some ditch somewhere beyond my sight. I would hate to know that Mother Nature and Father Time got to him before I did. It would be a tough way to waste a year. Hell, even waste a life. So, you have seen the continent? Asked Blaire. What have you seen on your way south? Now that Delaine could reassure himself that the children were past the point of suspicion and were now approaching him with trivial inquiries, he could at last indulge in their company. It was not hard to believe that his story would gather a crowd. Travel was a luxury that people of Jin, hell, people of anywhere are rarely fortunate enough to partake in. Then again, to Delaine, he never considered himself lucky. A warm bed and a beautiful woman was all he wanted, and that was why the explanation of his year-long travel was diluted and unsatisfying to the listener. But Blaire soaked it up. Delaine was disinterested with his own story. They were rather fictional reimagining of his past or painful reminders. So he kept his eyes on Chloe and watched her timid reaction as he spoke. It was a comfort that matched the sensation he once felt for Jennifer, his wife of almost 5 years, his wife still, but never more in his mind. To him, she was dead. When he shot her lover, Henry Gonright, he had not only killed him, but everything else in Delaine's past. Everything he had now was at the kitchen table in the Barnwell's household.